The Price of the Inheritance, The Twins of Silence. Attention, drama lovers. This story isn't just a reunion. It's an explosion of family secrets, elite betrayal, and the hardest redemption a man can face. If you've ever wondered if money buys happiness, this video will give you the answer. Before diving into this emotional whirlwind, please subscribe to the channel. Hit like if the hook grabs you, and leave a comment telling us what you think is worth more, an empire or a family. Let the betrayal begin. I. The Gold Mask and the CEO's Void. New York in the fall is a city of sharp angles and blinding lights for the elite, and no one personified that forced perfection better than Alex Rivers. At 32, he was already the CEO of Rivers Tech Global, a multi-billion-dollar technology empire built on AI and cloud innovation. His face adorned the covers of Forbes. His keynote speeches at global summits were considered landmark events, and his handshake was synonymous with billions. Every photo circulated of Alex was a study in pristine image, perfectly styled ash blonde hair, glacial blue eyes that exuded the right amount of calculated detachment, and that precise smile that could close a deal before the first paragraph of the contract was read. He lived in a penthouse overlooking Central Park, drove a custom electric sports car, and wore tailor-made suits worth an annual salary. To the world, he was perfection personified, disciplined, unstoppable, and predestined for greatness. But there was something Alex didn't have, and something he once nearly risked everything for: love. 5 years earlier, before ascending to his full CEO role, Alex had been with someone who didn't fit the strict script his family had written for him. Her name was Sarah Vance. She wasn't a socialite or an investor. Sarah was a scholarship graduate student, studying architecture and working odd jobs. She had paint on her jeans, and her notebooks were filled with chaotic sketches that, to Alex, were more beautiful than any executive plan. Sarah had long, untamed brown hair, deep, expressive blue eyes, and a way of looking at Alex that made him feel more than a title. It made him feel human. With her, he didn't have to perform. He laughed louder, slept better, and dreamed of a freedom his gilded cage denied him. Their relationship blossomed in intimacy. Late-night walks through Union Square, shared takeout on rooftops overlooking the New York skyline, and long talks about fears and utopias. She didn't care about his money. She mocked his overly expensive watch and flatly refused to let him pay her rent. She made him feel real in a world where everything about him felt curated. For the first time, Alex imagined a future that didn't revolve around quarterly balance sheets, but around laughter in a small kitchen and children with blue eyes and untamable energy. But his parents, Mr. Charles Rivers, chairman of the board, and his mother, Mrs. Ellen Rivers, the New York high society matriarch, had other plans. The reaction to discovering Sarah was immediate and brutal. Mr. Charles summoned him to his mahogany office and laid it out plainly. "She is not your equal. She dilutes your image. Marry her, and we will begin the process to remove you from the succession." Mrs. Ellen didn't even bother to conceal her disdain. "Do you really want to embarrass the family? What will the shareholders think seeing you with someone so ordinary?" Alex fought. He resisted. He said he didn't care about perception. But Rivers Tech was a brand. His name was an investment. The pressure intensified from family to advisors, reminding him of historical obligations. The worst part, Alex never told Sarah the truth. One day, he simply ended it. No explanation, no discussion. He told her he needed to focus on his career and walked out of her small apartment in the village, leaving behind the woman he had imagined forever with. He buried himself in work, trying to convince himself it was necessary, that it was for the greater good. But not a day passed without him missing her laugh, the way she pronounced his name when she was angry, and the way she made him feel like a man, not a product. 2. The hidden truth in 2 heartbeats. Sarah's sacrifice. Sarah Vance had never believed in fairy tales, but falling in love with Alex Rivers had felt dangerously close to one. She believed in his unfinished promises and his desire to escape the world of cameras. But one day, he disappeared. No goodbye, just a cold, carefully worded message that he needed space to focus on his future. She waited. She called. She left one long, desperate voicemail. But the silence that followed wasn't empty. It was deliberate. It was definitive. And then she stopped waiting. Sarah threw herself into her work, trying to drown the anguish in blueprints and models. But only a few weeks later, she started noticing changes in her body. The fatigue, the nausea, the missed period. She told herself it was stress. But when she took the pregnancy test and saw the result, positive, it took her breath away. The doctor confirmed the pregnancy. But the ultrasound revealed something unexpected. 2 heartbeats. Twins. 2 lives growing inside her. 2 vivid reminders of a man who had walked away without looking back. She considered calling him again. But she remembered his assistant's cold rejection and the way he had vanished as if she meant nothing. She decided she couldn't go through that again. Sarah made the decision to leave New York. She accepted a job in a smaller city, in a drafting office where no one asked about her past. She rented a modest apartment and lived cautiously, saving every penny. The twin pregnancy was exhausting, but she was tougher. She worked despite swollen feet and sleepless nights, consuming prenatal vitamins with food stamps and skipping meals to pay for baby clothes. And when the time came, she gave birth to 2 healthy, beautiful boys, Dean and Liam. They had blonde hair from the start, and the bluest eyes she had ever seen. It was like looking at 2 tiny versions of the man she had loved. At first, it broke her heart to see him in their faces, but with time, that feeling softened into something stronger. Fierce love. Her sons were her everything. Loud, messy, and perfect. She fed them, dressed them, kissed their bruises, and read them stories even when she could barely stand. Sarah never mentioned Alex's name. When the boys asked about a father, she told them the truth, gently, that sometimes people leave because they are afraid of love, and that is not our fault. Chapter 3. Destiny calls at the summit. The return to New York. Do you think destiny always finds a way to close the circles that fear opens? Or do you think Sarah should have tried to contact Alex one last time after finding out about the pregnancy? Share your opinion in the comments. If Sarah's courage inspires you, show it with a like and share this drama. The invitation arrived unexpectedly, hidden in Sarah's freelance email inbox. The Global Architecture Summit. Speaker selection. She thought it was a mistake. She had never presented at an event of this caliber, much less in New York. But the message was real. They had reviewed her design proposal for a women's shelter, sustainable, low cost, and community-focused, and wanted her to speak on the panel. It was the opportunity she had dreamed of for years. Returning to New York 5 years later was surreal. Everything looked the same, but nothing felt familiar. She arrived with Dean and Liam, 2 energetic 5-year-olds, who asked endless questions on the flight and looked up in awe at the city skyline. She dressed them smartly for the summit, in small collared shirts and clean sneakers, with a backpack full of coloring books and snacks to keep them occupied. The event was held in a downtown skyscraper, with glass walls and sunlight flooding the room. Sarah tried not to think about the possibility of running into anyone. New York is huge. He won't be here. Why would he be? But then she heard his voice. She was midway through answering a reporter's question when the deep, all too familiar voice resonated in the air. Sarah froze. Her stomach lurched before her eyes confirmed it. Alex Rivers was less than 20 feet away, laughing softly with a group of impeccably suited sponsors. He hadn't changed. Immaculate blonde hair, effortless posture, but harder, with more of an edge around his features. His expression was calm, until it landed on her. Sarah saw the exact moment reality hit him. First confusion, then shock, then something deeper. His eyes darted from Sarah to the two boys sitting on the floor behind her table, coloring quietly on the carpet. Time slowed down. Alex's face went pale, almost gray. His gaze locked on the twins, and Sarah could see the gears turning in his mind. Fast, desperate. He walked toward her. She stiffened, clutching the edge of the exhibit table as if it could anchor her to the earth. He stopped in front of her, his voice barely audible. "Sarah." She didn't answer. He looked at the children, then back at her, visibly trembling. "Are they?" She held his gaze. "Yes," she said calmly and quietly. "They are yours." Alex stumbled back, stunned. He looked like a man who had just been punched. "I didn't know," he said. "I had no idea." "I know," she replied, her voice firm. "I tried. You made sure I couldn't reach you." "But why didn't you try again?" Sarah allowed herself a soft, bitter, tired laugh. "I did. I left messages. I sent letters. Your assistant told me never to call again. I assumed you had made your decision." Alex lowered his gaze, the weight of truth and shame falling heavily on his face. He looked back at the children. Dean looked up, smiled, and innocently waved at him. "I need to talk to you," Alex said, his voice cracking slightly. Sarah crossed her arms. "Now you want to talk, after 5 years, at a public event." He nodded slowly. "Yes, I need to explain, and I need to understand." She stared at him. The pain she had buried deep surfaced, but she didn't let it out. "You can't walk back into this like nothing happened," she said. "But if you truly want to understand, start by learning their names." Alex turned to the boys, knelt down and asked softly, "What are your names?" "I'm Dean," said one son. "I'm Liam," added the other. "And what's your name?" "I'm Alex," he replied with a sad smile. They didn't recognize him. Why would they? Sarah watched, her heart pounding wildly. The truth was out, and nothing would ever be the same. 4. The weight of consistency. Rebuilding brick by brick. Alex didn't sleep that night. The image of Dean and Liam, their names, their small blue eyes, haunted him in his penthouse, now a place empty of meaning. The next morning, he secretly requested a DNA test. It wasn't for legality. It was because he needed permission to believe the truth he already knew. 3 days later, the result, 99.9% match. There was no possible denial. He was their father. Alex looked at the document as if it were something sacred and heavy, the key to a door he himself had locked. Sarah agreed to meet him at a small coffee shop without lawyers or assistants. They sat face to face, two people separated by years of pain, but eternally united by 2 children. "I have the results," Alex finally said. "They are mine." Sarah nodded. "I know. I don't know what to say to you." "Then don't say anything you don't mean," she replied, her eyes clear. "I feel everything now, Sarah. I swear. I wanted to fight, but my parents, the board, it all collapsed. I didn't know how to be the man they expected, and the man you needed. You chose them," Sarah said, without malice. "You left, and I had to raise them without you. While you built empires, I built cribs." Alex flinched. Her words weren't cruel. They were simply true. "I'm not asking for forgiveness yet," he said, humbled. "I just want a chance. To know them. To be part of their lives. I can't go back. But I can show up now. I can try." Sarah studied him cautiously. "They are 5 years old. They don't understand betrayal, only presence. You can't just pop in and out. If you want to be in their lives, it has to be completely." "I'm in," he said without hesitation. No matter the cost, she conceded. You'll start small. Pick them up from school one day. Come to the park. If they ask, answer honestly. But if they run, don't chase them, just be there. The visits began consistently. Alex showed up at school, at the park, in clothes that were awkwardly casual, but with a fierce commitment. No suits, just ice cream stains on his jeans. One day at the park, Liam fell off the slide. Alex rushed over, knelt down, and gently checked his arm. You're okay, he said tenderly. Liam blinked. You sound like Mom. Alex smiled. I'm trying to be good at this. That small gesture nearly broke him. Dean, who had been watching with that calculating gaze Alex recognized from himself, finally walked over. Are you going to come back? Alex looked him in the eye, steady. Yes, I will come back. Again and again. V. The title that can't be bought. The emotional peak. It's been 3 months of total consistency. What do you think has been harder for Alex? Giving up his CEO life, or maintaining his promise to show up for every moment, no matter how small? Leave us your opinion, and don't forget to subscribe. One Saturday afternoon, Sarah dropped the boys off at Alex's penthouse. He had retrofitted his luxurious space for the mitur. Toys in wicker baskets, a small drawing table, and a fridge full of juices he detested, but they loved. They built a pillow fort between the sofas. Dean was the captain. Liam, the science officer. Alex played as Commander Daddy, a name Liam invented midway through the game, and said without thinking. Alex froze for a second. Daddy. He didn't respond immediately, fearing that if he reacted too much, the boy would retract it. But internally, the word resonated like an anthem he never knew he needed. Later, while watching cartoons, Liam snuggled up next to him and looked up. Can I call you Daddy now, or do I have to wait? Alex felt a lump in his throat. He looked at Liam, then at Dean, who was watching silently. You can call me whatever feels right to you, he said huskily. But if you want to call me Daddy, I would be very proud. That night, Sarah came to pick them up and found them asleep on the sofa. Alex curled protectively with them, the television still on. She stood watching them. The wall she had built was crumbling. Waking Alex, he helped carry them to the car. Liam called me Daddy today, he said quietly. Sarah looked at him. He wouldn't have asked you if he didn't truly feel it. Alex didn't sleep again that night. He stayed awake, feeling complete for the first time in years. Not because of success or wealth, but because 2 small boys had chosen to let him in. Not as a guest, but as their father. The final confrontation and the new success, the price of humanity. Alex knew he had to face his parents. The confrontation was no longer for closure, it was for clarity. He arrived at the Rivers estate in Greenwich, Connecticut on a Sunday morning. Mr. Charles received him in the library, his mother appearing moments later, immaculate and cold. I'm surprised you came, his father said. Alex stood by the fireplace, unwavering. We need to talk about Sarah and about the children. His mother tensed. We warned you about her years ago. You didn't warn me. You lied to me. Alex's voice was controlled but sharp. You blocked letters, ignored calls. You had her kept away. We did what was necessary to protect your future, Mr. Charles replied. You chose the girl who had nothing. That girl is the mother of my sons. The children you didn't even bother to know existed. She raised them alone, and they turned out to be better people than everything this family has produced. His father adopted a strategic tone. And now what? Are you going to play house and pretend you're a family man? Alex looked at him with disgust. I don't care what the world buys. I care what Dean and Liam see when they look at me. I care what kind of man I am when I tuck them in at night. I am not here to ask for your blessing, Alex declared, looking at both of them. Your control ends here. If you cannot accept my family, You will not be part of our lives. That is your choice. But I am done living under your version of success." A heavy silence fell. Alex saw a visible crack in the facade of power they had always wielded. "I pity you," he added quietly. "You will never know them. You will never hear Liam explain why he thinks the moon controls feelings, nor see how Dean draws his dreams. You will lose everything. And one day you will realize that you traded your grandchildren for control." He turned and walked out. 7. The rooted home. Almost a year after the reunion, Alex's life wasn't perfect, but it was full. His mornings began with spilled cereal, mismatched socks, and the chaos of getting 2 boys out the door. His penthouse, once sterile, had been transformed into a lived-in home, with crayon drawings taped to the fridge. One Saturday morning, as the boys played, and Sarah made coffee, Alex approached her. There was no velvet case. There was a simple, clean box, carefully chosen with a delicate but strong ring. "I don't want to rewrite the past," Alex said, kneeling before her, in front of the children. "I just want to write the rest of the story with you in it. As your partner, as the father of our sons, as the man who finally understands what it means to love completely and show up entirely." Sarah's eyes shone, and she smiled. "Yes," she said simply. "I don't need perfection. I just need you." They married a few months later, not in a hotel ballroom, but in the small community garden Sarah had helped design years ago. Dean and Liam wore matching vests and carried the rings, too excited to walk slowly. The vows were short, honest, and unpolished. Promises to choose each other, not just on sunny days, but on the difficult ones too. When they kissed, the kiss didn't mark a beginning. It sealed something that was already built, slowly, painfully, and beautifully. As the sun set, and the children ran among the ivy, Alex stood, his hand intertwined with Sarah's, feeling a peace he had never known in his former life. He had believed that success was power and control. But here, barefoot in a garden, with his wife and sons chasing butterflies, he finally understood. He was home, completely, finally. And this time he wasn't going anywhere. The silent return of the shadow, the calm before the tech storm, the triumph in the community garden of Hope case felt like an act of liberation for Alex. The corporate world and the press saw Mr. Charles Rivers' defeat as a public humiliation that, ironically, elevated Alex's reputation not as a magnate, but as a social hero. The firm Vance Rivers Sustainable Architecture flourished, flooded with projects that sought not just designs, but an ethical purpose. Family life achieved a vibrant harmony. Nights ended with the 4 of them snuggled on the sofa reading. Dean and Liam, now in a school with more trees than cement, grew up with the unwavering security of a present father. However, Alex knew his father. Mr. Charles didn't retreat. He retrenched. For 6 months, there was complete silence from the Rivers patriarch. No calls, no banking pressure, no press articles. It was an unnatural calm, the stillness of the jungle before the predator strikes, the broken peace dinner. The first sign that the war wasn't over came in the form of a formal invitation, a peace and reconciliation dinner at the family mansion in Greenwich, Connecticut. Sarah advised caution, but Alex felt it was time to look his father in the eye as an equal. Alex attended alone. The dinner was impeccable, cold, and brief. Mr. Charles offered no apology, simply acknowledging Alex's resilience, a compliment that sounded more like a strategic analysis than affection. "You have grit, Alex, I admit it," Mr. Charles said, sipping his single malt whiskey. "But you didn't use your talent to its fullest extent. You built a garden when you could have built a city. A shame." Alex smiled. "I built what is real, Father. You only build what is profitable." The patriarch stood up. "We shall see, son. We shall see. There are many ways to build a legacy. The next day, the calm was shattered. Not with a lawsuit or banking pressure, but with a massive, global corporate event that dominated the headlines. Rivers Tech Global had secretly acquired Ethan Ward's technology holding in Silicon Valley. The CEO who had offered Alex freedom was quietly absorbed. Ethan's dream of sustainable smart cities was now in Mr. Charles's hands. But what truly chilled Alex's blood was the advertising campaign that immediately launched. The new project, a digital urban utopia promising to change the lives of millions, was named Project L&D The Legacy. The initials, L and D, were the same as his sons, Liam and Dean. The message was clear and chilling. Mr. Charles had not only taken his son's vision, but had named it after his grandchildren, claiming the vision and the inheritance Alex had denied him. It was a perfect psychological war, using the children's innocence as the new facade for the empire. Alex returned home, pale. Sarah, seeing the news on her tablet, understood immediately. "It's not about the money, Sarah," Alex said, his voice barely a whisper. "It's about the boys. He's using their future, their name, to build his last and biggest lie." Sarah took his hand with a firmness that surprised Alex. She was no longer the scared woman of the past. "Then we will show him that the true L&D legacy is built in a garden, not on a server. He has a name. We have real life." Alex looked at her. The game had changed. It was no longer about money or buildings, but about protecting his son's identity and future from a grandfather who wanted to turn them into a brand slogan. Ike's, the siren song of Silicon Valley. But can real life truly win against the will of a billionaire with a wounded ego? What would you do if your success was constantly threatened by the ghost of your past? Leave us your strategy in the comments. And like if you think Alex should fight back. Mr. Charles's response was not a threat, but a temptation. A month after a major mortgage loan was denied due to sudden risks, a clear manipulation by Mr. Charles, Alex received a call. Not from his father, but from Ethan Ward, the former CEO of the now acquired AI startup and an old competitor of Rivers Tech. The conversation was brief and to the point. Ethan was developing a sustainable smart cities project, a dream that exactly matched Sarah's vision, and needed a partner with Alex's business acumen, but without the cold ethics of Rivers Tech. The offer. The proposal was astronomical. Head of the Smart Urban Development Division, stock compensation that doubled his lost wealth, and most tempting total freedom to build his vision on a new coast. Far from Mr. Charles's suffocating reach in New York, Alex fell silent. Silicon Valley. He could forever free himself from his father's shadow. He could guarantee Sarah and the children unparalleled financial security, freeing her from constant economic worry. That night, he presented the offer to Sarah. "It's a chance to build our vision on a global scale, Sarah," he said, his voice filled with an excitement he hadn't felt since his days at Rivers Tech. "And most importantly, it's total liberation from my father. He has zero influence in San Francisco." Sarah listened intently, studying the proposal blueprint. There was a flicker of architectural interest in her eyes, but also a shadow of unease on her mother's face. "It's tempting," she admitted, tracing a line on the plan with her finger. "But it's the same game, Alex. Scale again, corporate success again. And," she looked up, her eyes locking onto his with painful clarity, "it's the same promise of success that forced you to leave me 5 years ago. What if Silicon Valley has its own Mr. Charleses?" The question sent a chill down Alex's spine. He had changed, but the corporate world remained the same. Was he running from his father instead of confronting him? X. The family decision. Alex spent the next 2 weeks consumed by doubt. On one hand, global security and freedom. On the other, the authenticity and home they had fought so hard to build in New York. The decision in the end belonged neither to him nor to Sarah, but to Dean and Liam. One Sunday afternoon, while walking through Central Park, the same park Alex used to see from his old penthouse, and now walked as a free man, Alex explained the proposal simply. Daddy has a chance to go to a place called California, where we can build very modern houses that heal themselves, with lots of light, and where we'll make a lot of money. But we'd have to move out of our little house. Liam, the more sensitive one, clung to Sarah's hand. And the flower grandmas? The older couple Sarah helped in the community garden where they married. Who will water their geraniums? Dean, the more logical one, looked at his father. If we make a lot of money, will you have to go back to working all day in the glass building and only talking about numbers? Dean's question was the sword of Damocles. The child didn't fear the move or the unknown. He feared the return of the absent man his father had been. Sarah held his gaze, letting her son's question resonate. Alex knelt, feeling the weight of his answer. No, my love, I won't go back to the glass building, but I would have to work more than I do here, and maybe I'd be more tired. Dean shrugged, with a mature sadness in his blue eyes. Then it's not worth it. Our house here doesn't heal itself, but you heal us with stories, and that's priceless. Liam nodded fervently, hugging Alex's leg. Stay here, Daddy. Big houses are boring. The twins' response was a moral mandate. They chose the value of presence over the value of patrimony. Alex stood up, feeling firmer than ever. That night, he called Ethan Ward and respectfully declined the offer, explaining that his priority was now the architecture of his family, not of smart cities. 11. The final act. A garden versus an empire. Reflection time. The twins chose love over money, but do you think Mr. Charles will accept this defeat? Do you think Alex did the right thing by following his son's advice on a business matter? Leave it in your comment. Don't forget to subscribe and share this family's courage. Alex didn't leave. He stayed in New York, and that was the true counterattack against his father. He proved he would not run from his city or his destiny. Seeing that his financial suffocation strategy wasn't working, Mr. Charles Rivers was forced to make a public and humiliating move for Alex. Launch a public bid to forcibly acquire the community garden, the very garden where Alex and Sarah had married, and which was the heart of Sarah's latest major project. Mr. Charles's plan: to build a Rivers Tech Convention Center in its place, a cold symbol of his power. The news was a bomb in the New York press. Mr. Charles wanted to destroy his son's sanctuary. The family did not sink. They united. Sarah, with renewed ferocity, organized the neighbors and affected small business owners. Alex, using his old contacts, leaked details about Rivers Tech's corporate bullying tactics and the project's lack of ethics to the press. The final battle was not fought in a boardroom, but in the heart of the city. The last speech. At the final public hearing in City Hall, Alex Rivers presented himself, not as the CEO, but as a resident. He gave a simple speech, devoid of technical terms, that made the audience hold its breath. My name is Alex Rivers. I grew up with a last name that means power. I believed success was building taller and earning more money. That's why, years ago, I left the woman I loved. He paused, looking at Sarah, who held Dean and Liam's hands. My father wants to replace this garden, where I found my real life, with a glass building. He wants to build over the ground we have healed, but it's not about who has more money. It's about what deserves to grow. He pointed to his sons, who looked up at him with proud eyes. My true success is not Rivers Tech. It is them. And I taught them that the value of a life is not measured by its height, but by the depth of its roots. He looked at the audience. Today, we choose the roots. We choose the garden. We choose what is real. The outcome. The audience erupted in applause. Social pressure and Sarah Vance's impeccable legal defense forced Mr. Charles to withdraw the bid. The garden was saved. It was a symbolic victory, the garden defeating the empire. Mr. Charles Rivers, for the first time in his life, lost a battle. And that loss cost him not money, but the last vestige of control over his son. The chosen legacy. The firm Vance Rivers Sustainable Architecture flourished. They never built a skyscraper, but they built something better. Communities. And so, Alex Rivers, the man who once fled love for an empire, found that his true power was not in the tallest building, but in the firmness of his roots and the noisy hugs of two boys who would never let him doubt his worth. 12. The silent return of the shadow. The quiet before the global storm. The triumph in the community garden case felt like an act of liberation for Alex. The corporate world and the press viewed Mr. Charles Rivers' defeat as a public humiliation that, ironically, elevated Alex's reputation not as a magnate, but as a social hero. The firm Vance Rivers Sustainable Architecture flourished, inundated with projects seeking not just designs, but an ethical purpose. Family life achieved a vibrant harmony. Nights ended with the four of them snuggled on the sofa reading. Dean and Liam, now in a school with more trees than cement, grew up with the unwavering security of a present father. However, Alex knew his father. Mr. Charles didn't retreat. He retrenched. For 6 months, there was complete silence from the Rivers patriarch. No calls, no banking pressures, no press articles. It was an unnatural calm, the stillness of the jungle before the predator attacks. The broken peace dinner. The first sign that the war wasn't over came in the form of a formal invitation. A peace and reconciliation dinner at the family mansion in Greenwich, Connecticut. Sarah advised caution, but Alex felt it was time to look his father in the eye as an equal. Alex attended alone. The dinner was impeccable, cold, and brief. Mr. Charles offered no apology, simply acknowledging Alex's resilience, a compliment that sounded more like a strategic analysis than affection. "You have grit, Alex. I admit it," Mr. Charles said, sipping his single malt. "But you didn't use your talent to its fullest potential. You built a garden when you could have built a city. A shame." Alex smiled. "I built what is real, father. You only build what is profitable." The patriarch stood up. "We shall see, son. We shall see. There are many ways to build a legacy." The next day, the calm was shattered. Not with a lawsuit or banking pressure, but with a massive, global corporate event that dominated the headlines. Rivers Tech Global had secretly acquired Ethan Ward's technology holding in Silicon Valley. The CEO who had offered Alex freedom was silently absorbed. Ethan's dream of sustainable smart cities was now in Mr. Charles's hands. But what truly chilled Alex's blood was the advertising campaign that immediately launched. The new project, a digital urban utopia promising to change the lives of millions, was named Project L&D, the Legacy. The initials L and D were the same as his sons, Liam and Dean. The message was clear and chilling. Mr. Charles had not only taken his son's project, but had named it after his grandchildren, claiming the vision and the inheritance Alex had denied him. It was a perfect psychological war, using the children's innocence as the new facade for the empire. Alex returned home, pale. Sarah, seeing the news on her tablet, understood immediately. "It's not about the money, Sarah," Alex said, his voice barely a whisper. "It's about the boys. He's using their future, their name, to build his last and biggest lie." Sarah took his hand, with a firmness that surprised Alex. She was no longer the scared woman of the past. "Then we will show him that the true L&D legacy is built in a garden, not on a server. He has a name. We have real life." Alex looked at her. The game had changed. It was no longer about money or buildings, but about protecting his son's identity and future from a grandfather who wanted to turn them into a brand slogan. The open ending. The question of legacy. That night, as Dean and Liam slept, unaware of the epic battle being fought for their names, Alex sat by the window with Sarah. "What do we do, Sarah? This is a game I can't win in New York. If he uses their name, he'll do it all over the world." Sarah looked at the city lights, thinking of their little garden and the monstrous shadow of the L&D project. "There's only one way to protect their legacy, and that's to build ours first, Alex. We'll have to take the rooted life to a place Mr. Charles never thought we'd go. A place where our project can eclipse his, not in height, but in human value." She turned to look at him, her eyes shining with a mix of fear and resolve. "The problem is, where do we go? And most importantly, are we ready for Dean and Liam to face the truth that their grandfather is the villain in this story?" The question remains in the air. Cole. The big final question. Mr. Charles has used Dean and Liam's names, L&D, for his global project. What should Alex and Sarah do to fight back and protect their son's innocence? A. Stay and fight legally. Battle on the legal ground in the U.S., forcing Mr. Charles to change the project name. Risk, slow, and emotionally exhausting. B. Internationalize rooted life. Take their social project to a developing country, e.g. Latin America, to create a human impact that Rivers Tech's money cannot buy. Risk, leaving the stability of New York. Your decision is crucial. Vote for the strategy you think the Vance Rivers family should take in the comments. Fight at home or build a global alternative? Subscribe for the next chapter and leave a like if this twist thrilled you.